How much money does it really cost to own a car in Canada? Try and guess. An eye-watering $1.8 million over a lifetime. If you're swimming in cash, then this is just pocket change, but for everyone else, it could be a serious wealth killer. Now, if you say that $1.8 million is absurd because car payments are just $400 or $500 a month, I know it sounds crazy and I couldn't believe it myself until I did the calculations. So in this video today, let's break down the numbers so you can make the right move. In 2022, Canadians spent $10,000 per year on transportation, or 16.4% of their entire spending. That makes it the third largest household expense after shelter and food. With most Canadians owning a car, the bulk of these costs are car-related. I'm just glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. I used to battle through nightmare traffic when I lived in Jakarta, and while having a car is definitely convenient and Toronto's traffic is way better, I decided to give myself a break from driving and stick to public transit instead. As a result, my transportation bill for the two of us was only $2,676 in 2024. By the way, let me know in the comments below, how do you get around in your city and what did it cost you last year? So how much does it really cost to own and drive a car in Canada? According to a recent post by RateHub, the average cost of owning a car in Canada is $1,370 per month, which translates to $16,440 per year. Obviously, cars come in all shapes and prices, and you can compare a brand new BMW to a 2005 Toyota Corolla. That's why they base their calculations on an average car, defined by the average selling price of both new and used cars, which comes down to $51,152. With an 8-year loan, assuming an 8.46% interest rate, here's what you'd be paying. $533 per month toward the principal. This goes towards paying off the car loan. $202 per month in interest, the price you pay just for borrowing the money. Together, that's $734 per month, making up half of your total car cost before you even factor in the other things. There's also $227 per month on gas based on 132 liters of fuel consumption of a Toyota RAV4, and I bet that number is much higher for a lot of people. There's also an average of $79 for the cost of maintenance, which we all know can be much higher, especially if unexpected things happen. New tires or even a simple brake job can skyrocket your cost, turning that $79 into hundreds or even $1,000 in a flash. Also, admin fees at an average of $10 per month, which goes towards the cost of registering and licensing your car. At least it's nowhere near the cost of certifying a car in Singapore, which is $106,000. And then there's good old parking, averaging $200 a month. But let's be real, if you live in a big city, it can be way worse, with rates anywhere from $1.50 to $6.75 per hour. So tell me, how much of a pain is parking for you? Lastly, we have car insurance with an average of $143 per month, which translates to $1,716 per year. In provinces like Ontario, however, you can expect to pay as much as $2,006 per year. And there you have it. Owning a car sets you back an average of $1,370 a month. Crazy, right? Sounds like a lot? It gets even crazier when you look at the long-term impact. The money you spend now doesn't just affect your monthly budget, it influences how soon you can retire, work until 55 or 70. And also impacts the speed at which you can build your wealth. And talking about building wealth, let's talk about a tool that can actually help you grow your money instead of watching it disappear into car payments. Wealthsimple is one of the investment apps I've been using for the last 4 years, and it's great for beginners because there's no monthly fee and no trading fees, plus it's super easy to use. And you can even get a $25 bonus just by opening an account using my referral code in the descriptions below and funding it with just $1. Note that I will also get a small commission. So $1,370 each month is a lot of money, but here's the real shocker. Over a lifetime, this could add up to a mind-blowing amount, one that might just change the way you see car ownership forever. So how much is your car really costing you? Let's break this down. $1,370 in total car expenses per month adds up to $16,440 per year. And over 8 years, you would be spending $131,520. Let that sink in for a moment. But wait, you might say that not all of the money is gone. After all, I still own the car and I can sell it after 8 years or earlier, and it's worth something, right? Yes, so let's factor that into our calculation and assume you sell the car after 8 years. And here's where things get interesting. Is a car an asset or is it an expense? And I'm not talking about those high-end collector cars here. Unlike real estate or other investments that grow in value, cars do the opposite. They lose value very fast. Generally, a new car depreciates between 20 to 30% in the first year, 15 to 25% annually from the second year to the fifth year. By the fifth year, a car could lose up to 60% in value. To make our calculation easier, let's assume we're selling the car after 8 years. If the price of the car was $51,152, after 8 years, its value would go down to only 40%, which is $20,460. Now let's assume 8 years have passed and we sell the car for that amount. How much have we profited, or more precisely, how much money have we lost? Let's take a step back again and look at how much we actually spent over these 8 years. That's $131,520, including all costs. Now, if we sell the car, we'll pocket $20,460 from that, and that leaves us with a loss of $111,053. But isn't calling it a loss a bit extreme? After all, we got years of convenience and freedom from the car, right? Absolutely. I'm not arguing that at all. But how is it any different from having a mortgage? When you buy a house, you're not just paying for the principal, but you also spend a ton of money on other expenses, including interest, maintenance fees, property taxes, and so on. So why are cars the wealth killer here? Here's the deal. There are a key difference between a mortgage and a car loan. Let's say you sell your home after 8 years. In most cases, if you made a smart investment, you'll have built equity, so real value in your property. Of the 3/4 of homeowners who have owned for more than 5 years, they've amassed over $175,000 of equity on average. Sweet. Another difference? Housing is a necessity. Owning a car isn't really. Before there's an outcry in the comments, of course, there are situations where having a car is non-negotiable. Mobility challenges, multiple young children, certain jobs, or medical conditions that make public transit impractical. But for most people, a car is a choice, not a necessity. The main function of a car, getting from point A to B, can often be achieved through public transportation, ride-sharing, car rentals, sometimes even biking. And choosing to delay buying a car doesn't mean never owning one, just owning one at the right time and for the right reasons. And in fact, 28% of Toronto households don't own a car, including many suburban ones. In downtown areas, that number jumps to 55%. And somehow they make it work. And before anyone say that I'm anti-car, I'm not. I don't have one right now, but I might later down the road when I can more easily afford it. Because owning a car is great, but at what cost? To calculate the real impact on your financial future, let's return to our numbers. The price of the convenience of a car over 8 years was $131,520. After selling the car for about $20,000, we'll have a net loss of about $111,053. Let's see how much that is per month. Divide that number by 8 years of the car's lifetime, then by 12 months, and we get to $1,157 per month of pure expense. Now imagine an alternative scenario of using that money. What if we didn't buy a car, save the money, and instead invested that $1,157 per month instead and put it into... But hold on, wait. For a fair calculation, we need to first subtract the money we would spend on other means of transportation. After all, that still costs money. For that, let's start with my actual monthly transportation expenses. As I mentioned before, in 2024, we, a household of 2, spent $2,676 on transportation. We mainly use a mix of public transportation and Uber and a lot of walking. But that's perhaps not representative of other households who maybe have 4 people and use Uber much more often. So for good measure, let's double that to $5,352 per year. Per month, that comes down to $446. So the actual amount of money we could save would be $1,157 in car expenses minus $446 for the cost of public transportation in Uber equals $711. What if you invested that money instead? This is going to be a fun simulation. If you'd invested $711 per month into the stock market for 8 years at an average yearly return of 10%, you'd have almost $102,000 at the end of that. And yes, 10% on average over the long term is actually possible in the stock market. Watch this video up here if you doubt that. This means that after 8 years from now, instead of having one car and spending a net $111,000 in expenses, you would have $102,000. Plus, you'll probably have a set of really nicely toned legs from all that walking. And now let's go even further. Take that $102,000 and invest it for another 30 years. And let's even assume you don't add anything to that money and just leave it there and forget it. Compounded at an average rate of return of 10% over 30 years, you'll have almost $1.8 million. Yep, that's right. What seemed like just car expenses could have turned into a small fortune instead. Makes you think twice about the true cost of owning a car. Now, of course, this calculation isn't perfect. It's based on a lot of assumptions that we could easily nitpick. But at the end of the day, it paints a clear picture of the sheer magnitude of the costs involved. Don't buy a car unless you truly need one. Explore other transportation options first, or better yet, consider moving closer to work. Even if housing costs a bit more, it could still be far cheaper than owning a car in the long run. And if you're still thinking of buying a car, consider this. It's not now or never. Here are 3 more things to consider. Buy a car later so you push back those car expenses and instead front load your savings and investments so they can compound. Buy a car when you can actually afford it, and that's relative. Surely, buying a car has a different impact when you're earning $80,000 versus $150,000 or even $300,000. Buy a used car that results in much lower payments and less depreciation. And if you have a car, try reducing your expenses, for example, by comparing car insurance rates to make sure you get the best rate. Now tell me what you think of all of this. Are you going to buy a car anytime soon, or are you going to dodge the money trap and save the money instead? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video, guys.